What is up? My name is Chris Rubio, host of your new favorite show on the NGBN.TV network. This is Decades, a show where we have someone in their 60s, 50s, 40s, 30s, and 20s, all males, and we're talking about things that you normally wouldn't talk to other people about. We're going to get a little feisty. We're going to agree. We're going to disagree, but we're going to, at the very end, have cheers, and we're going to agree to disagree on a lot of things. Let's meet our co-host / editor / lighting guy / boom man / producer / director / corraller, sub 60 Ed McAndrew. What is going on in Virginia?
Hey Rubio, it's hot down here in Virginia, and we're getting the smoke from the Canadians. I don't know if I want that. Hey, I was thinking earlier, it's Memepalooza tonight, Volume 3. I know the panel's really stoked for it. You know what Memepalooza is like? This is the WrestleMania for decades. This is no different. Everybody's bringing their A game. So you know what? Let's get it started.
I like that. Let's start oldest to youngest. In our 60s, we've got Jay the Judge Gaskell. He's an Idaho native, rabid Seahawks fan, retired district court judge. He makes the best old-fashioned in the Northwest, allegedly. What's up, Judge?
Hey, I'm at Rubio, going from best to last also.
Next up, we've got also representing the 60s, Bill Geiser. Bill is an entrepreneur, a wearable tech guru, one of the first people on Twitter, a phenomenal swimmer with 2 boys that lives in Florida. What's up, Geiser?
Greetings from the free state of Florida.
Number 3, representing our 50s, we've got Jim Gingrich. He's an Idaho native, cybersecurity consultant, enjoys outdoors, and only has 1 gun. What's up, James?
Welcome to the jungle.
Also representing our 50s, Alex Chris. He's originally from the Ukraine, grew up in the USSR, software developer who currently lives in LA. He likes gadgets, good beer, and guns. What's up, Gru?
Greetings from the leftist Republic of California.
Representing our 30s today, we've got Joe Nolan. He resides in Philadelphia, even though he's at the Shore. I'm assuming that's the Jersey Shore. I don't even know what he's talking about. He's an entrepreneur spirit, works in real estate and small business finance at a tech startup, and community involvement. Runs 10Ks in Warzone and has a couple of great shirts. What's up, Joe, with a fresh haircut?
Hello, brother.
Rounding it out, in our 20s, we've got Charles Wallace Jr. or Chalice Jr., 2-time wiffle ball champ. I think he's still muscling through his sprained ankle injury, and he's really, really, really into AI blondes in bikinis. What's up, Chalice?
What's up, guys? And this time next week, we're going to have to change it to 3-time wiffle ball champion. Saturday, we got the tournament this year, 3 times in 5 years. It's going to be electric.
Is this on an actual wiffle ball field, or is it just some dude's garage or backyard?
No, it's a charity event in Northeast Philadelphia. There's 37 teams.
Jesus. Okay. Well, more power to you.
Nice.
Sub 60 Ed. Let's start with Memepalooza. Everyone sent in a meme to Sub 60 Ed, and we're going to start with Alex Chris's. Go ahead, Sub 60 Ed. So, Alex, I'm assuming you are not a vegetarian?
No. Although I eat some salad and stuff, but I'm not.
Okay, because I don't think you're allowed to be a vegetarian in Idaho, Judge. Am I wrong on that one?
It would be very, very difficult.
I will just say this. Between my house and the Judge's, and we live right next door, and we'll say 220s across the street, Judge, there's got to be 500 pounds of meat in freezers right now?
Oh, yeah, at least. Yeah, I think just between mine and yours.
Okay, so we've got a lot. Joe Nolan, any thoughts on that meme?
Not bad.
You're not mad or not bad?
I'm not mad, and it's not bad. Yeah, it's kind of funny.
Bill Geiser, are you a meat eater out there in Florida?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And Alex, kudos. That's a great meme.
That was
very
a good
funny.
One. Charles Wallace, what's your thoughts?
I only eat meat, so I couldn't agree more.
Okay. And we'll round this one up with Jim Gingrich. What's your thought on this, Jim? I know you're a big meat eater.
Well, yeah, usually venison or elk, but I will say I would challenge anybody here to watch The Game Changer on Netflix. And man, it has me rethinking stuff. It talks about, how people say strong as an ox, and ox doesn't eat meat. And it talks about getting your proteins from other places, and it certainly has me rethinking some of my diet. But yeah, I am a meat eater currently, and don't think I'll ever fully change. But it's worth a look. It's interesting.
Well, if you stop eating meat, Judge and I will buy it. Sub 60 Ed, let's go to number 2, Bill Geyser.
Ooh.
Kind of spicy there, Bill Geyser. What's your thoughts on that?
I'm coming in hot. We used to have a government. What was it? Of the people, for the people, or of the people, by the people, for the people. And I think our priorities have shifted a bit.
Gingrich, you're nodding. What's up?
Well, I agree. It just makes me think of that guy. I think we talked about him before that runs around and asks questions, and it's fucking seriously sad how many people can't tell you the actual 3 branches of government. Young people, middle-aged people. It's just, what are they teaching in schools? Everybody on this panel I know well enough to know they can say that like that, but the amount of people in the country that don't is just insane.
Ed, can you hold up the meme one more time?
Come on, guys, that's funny.
That was better. Didn't you hear me laughing?
I laughed. It just covered my face. I did laugh, though.
Charles Wallace, what were you laughing about?
I feel like you could just put them all in one. I think corporations, the media, and pedophiles are all kind of under the same umbrella at this point, are they not?
Well, I mean, it's hard not to argue it. I went and saw The Sound of Freedom yesterday, and finding out that movie had been, was technically done 5 years ago, and they waited 5 years to release it. And it was not that it was waiting 5 years; it was being halted along the way. And I just don't understand how anyone could want to not release that movie or not see it. I mean, it's just the whole concept of child trafficking and all that, not good stuff. It was just mind blowing to me, and it didn't even make me sad. It made me more angry. Like, why would someone not want to watch this movie, or why would someone not want to release this movie to be seen? I just didn't understand. Joe, what were your thoughts on that meme?
Wow, that was a real fair lead-in. I appreciate that, Rubio.
No, I didn't ask you about the movie.
I think that no one should touch kids. Let's just be clear. No one should steal kids. But no, I thought the meme was really funny. I would disagree with who the 3 real branches of government are at this point. I would argue they're billionaires, billionaires, and billionaires. We fought a war 250 years ago to get rid of the aristocracy and the ruling class, but we decided to give it back under the guise of capitalism. Like, if you explained Nancy Pelosi or Mitch McConnell or Chuck Schumer's career to someone from the Byzantine Empire or the Ottomans, they say, oh, they're dukes, oh, they're royalty. And we're just allowed power and money to entrench inside of just a few hands that lets their hand-chosen puppets continue to retain power. And instead of us talking about real shit, we get to argue about each other, about pedophiles. So it's exciting.
Well, I think the argument would be that many of the high-end pedophiles are also billionaires, which that becomes the issue, and they're controlling it all, and they're making. I mean, I think in the movie they were saying how it's $155 billion industry, which is just insane. Charles Wallace.
When you hear things like that, you gotta question it, though, right, Rubio? Like, 155 billion is literally 10 times bigger than the NFL.
They've already said you can add the NBA, NFL,
it's about
Major League Baseball
the sum
together.
that we've given Ukraine.
But the argument for that was because when you start with a 5-year-old, okay, as different than cocaine, one big tootski and you're done. Okay, you have to rebuy it. The 5-year-old, they can go strong for 11 years until about 16, 17, and you can. I mean, they're getting, let's say, used 6 times per night, 6 to 10 times per night. So that's just constant tootskis every single night. So that's how the money adds up over time.
This just I'm always so suspicious. I think our first episode we talked about the media. And when you hear things like that are clearly designed to inflame and anger you, what is the actual proof to back that up? And what is the actual agenda behind it? Because if you're using that to try to restrict my freedoms, then that's clearly astroturfing bullshit.
What freedoms would they be restricting?
So right now people are using the stranger danger panic to try to restrict just in Philadelphia, like people not being able to gather after night, like trying to restrict the ability of people to, um, you know, I've been drinking all day. I don't know exactly what you want me to say. Like, this isn't the fucking, like, forum. I'm not Socrates, but, like, when I hear things that are clearly designed to inflame and scare, I instantly take them with a giant grain of salt. And until I actually see that overcome, I'm going to say that it's just fear mongering behind someone else's agenda, not mine.
Judge, do you know any of this stranger danger issues that he's talking about or whatever up in Philly?
Stranger danger issues. I don't know about that. I would agree with a lot of what Joe says about people just trying to inflame things. But until recently in history, the media was looked at as a good thing, as the fourth branch of government. You had a check on government. And I guess it's now how you define media, if you include the internet and all of those things you guys look at then as media, that I would assume you still think that's the case. But until recently, I think the courts did a good job. I don't think the current Supreme Court is doing a good job. I think that started with the American United, where they let the corporations control elections because they can give them any amount of money they want to. And I think that was started the whole downfall. And I don't think the courts are doing, at least the United States Supreme Court is doing its job as a guardian of the three branches of government anymore.
Charles Wallace.
Yeah, I just was going to touch on, no pun intended, the pedophile topic. I don't think that, and I understand, like, we can say things are there to inflame. We want to, stoke the flames. But at the same time, if any time there's an issue, we just say, well, this is just designed to do this. This is just designed to do that. At what point is there an issue where we say, okay, everything can't just be a distraction to push an agenda. Are there things that are designed on both sides to push an agenda? Sure. But can everything be designed to push an agenda? What's the bigger agenda being pushed if everything that we end up talking about is just to push another agenda?
And I'm kind of confused on if I'm going to say something that's going to inflame something, if I'm going to inflame the topic of maybe we should stop child trafficking, I'm okay to be inflamed on that one. Give me some s'mores. So let's light the flame on that one. We're going to cut to break right now. Then we're going to come back with number 3, Charles Wallace meme. Ed, take us to break.
Hello, my name's Ian Hill. And when I'm not training to be the oldest man to play NCAA Division I college football, I'm the CEO of NGBN TV.
Whoa, sub 60 Ed.
Came that quick.
That was quick. Short man with a short commercial. All right, we're back. Sub 60 Ed. If you're there, let's just go straight to the meme. I guess you wanted to see the meme, Daddy. Chalice, talk to us.
Pardon me?
Yeah, I think we've touched on once or twice on, LGBTQ topics, but to me, I think the trans issue more than any other issue, it kind of shows what I feel is one of the bigger problems in Western society right now, which is we're treating adults like you would treat small children. Like if you got like a 4-year-old, a 5-year-old, they draw you a picture and it's a shitty picture. But you're not going to tell them it's a shitty picture. You're going to be like, oh, man, let me put it on the fridge. And now you got dudes who are 6'2", and they look like middle linebackers, and they put a dress on and tell you got to call them Tiffany, and I'm supposed to play along with that. There's no benefit to society to play along and feed into this. And I don't understand why we're supposed to play along. You're born a man, you are a man. You're born a woman, you are a woman. I don't understand why we have to pretend that you can just alter reality. We can disagree, like you want to disagree about or debate like tax cuts and things like that. That's fine. But doesn't there need to at least be a fundamental, like 4 walls of reality that we all kind of agree to exist in?
Jim Gingrich, you had your hand up.
I almost posted something. It made me think of a meme, but we beat this horse pretty hard. There's a meme that says if your genitals don't define your gender, then how come getting a sex change and change your genitals makes you the other gender? And that's kind of the thing. I mean, every day you read and see more people being arrested or they've abused adopted kids, raped them, and so I think to me the argument's always hinged on mental illness. That doesn't mean they shouldn't exist. It doesn't mean I'm a transphobe, but there's some mental illness if that's how you're thinking, and that's always going to be my opinion.
Judge, you got that smile on your face.
Well, I identify with the sign of Montana bathroom. It showed the male figure, showed the female figure, then just showed a straight figure on the entrance to the restroom, and it said below it, "We don't care, just wash your hands." That's kind of my opinion.
No, but I don't want men in the bathroom with my daughter.
Yeah.
I think we're back to Joe's fear mongering on this.
It's not fear mongering. Why would I want a grown man in the bathroom with my daughter?
How often does that
This
happen?
happened today. There was like 3 tweets today about it that were real.
And I assume those were all in Chicago because that's where we focus mostly on this show.
We're going to keep it
California.
that way.
I just don't think that, again, if everything's fear mongering, then when is there, like, where do we stop the buck? If a guy can throw a dress on and go into a women's locker room, or if a guy can be a shitty male swimmer and be like, no, I'm actually a girl, and then be the best swimmer in the country, like, where do we stop the buck?
Well, you've gone beyond people that are changing their sex because they.
But they're not changing their sex.
They're not changing.
Well, you tell them that, I guess.
I do tell them that.
My philosophy is you pick out these isolated incidents of all trans people. You've got thousands and millions, probably more of those that involve heterosexual people, but they don't get the news coverage.
But heterosexual or just people who don't try to say there's something else, like they're going to be on a numbers basis. Obviously, there's going to be more because there's more of them. The trans community is such a small percentage, but still percentage wise, they're not going to have as many numbers because there's not that many of them.
That doesn't mean they don't exist.
But they don't exist because they're not.
That's hateful rhetoric, and I'm honestly not going to sit here and let you spew it.
What's
it's just
hateful
trans
about it?
erasure, and I'm really disappointed, Charles. Like, I think you're a good guy, but like it doesn't cost you anything to treat people with respect and to give
Yes, it
people the
does.
ability to say that the way that they believe that they live is real.
But they're not real, and I'm not going to sit here and pretend that they are to appease them. They're grown adults. Why are we appeasing grown adults?
With a mental illness.
I think what Charles is trying to say is, okay, if you go through an entire sex change and you've literally done the deed where you're cutting things on or adding things on, that's at that point you're a transgender. But if all of a sudden right now I put on a blonde wig and say, call me Tiffany, I'm now a woman, that's clearly not the case. I think that's what he's trying to say. Charles?
No, that's not what I'm trying to say.
Okay, then clear it up.
You can do whatever you want. It's not real. If I say chop my arm off, the doctor's going to say, no, why would I chop your arm off? If I go and say chop my balls off, now they're going to do that, and you just have to go along with it and call me Cheryl?
Joe?
Well,
we'll come back to you. Go, Geyser.
Yeah, please.
My view on the whole trans situation is supportive, with the exception of athletics. I think women's sports have taken a big step behind by allowing men to come in and compete against them. And they work too hard to sort of get on an even footing. So someone wants to be transsexual, I fully support it. That's great, but not in the field of competition. We should have women's sports, men's sports, and maybe we set up a separate division for transsexuals, but under no circumstance should a biological man be allowed to compete against a women and take their places, their positions, their prize money, and so on.
Yeah, you don't ever see it the backwards way. Go ahead, Joe Nolan, and then I got you, Drew.
Yeah, just on the sports, if you just think about it from how many kids are actually competing in sports and the amount of trans athletes, it is essentially a insignificant amount. But beyond that, every major conference already has rules governing how long you have to be on hormones before you're able to be in either division. So at the very highest levels, it's already been adjudicated by the people that are most affected by it. For everyone else,
No
it's
one
just
agrees with that, though,
some
Joe.
data.
I'm not
Well,
saying
I'm just
the
saying that it's
rules.
not up to us as people that were not
Yes,
in
it
women's
is.
athletics.
I'm just saying, well,
And the people that
we have a
actually
voice, but
spent
we
the
have a
time have
voice.
said that it is fine if you follow these rules.
So Leah
I'm
Thomas
not
went
tell you,
through
like
the
in
rules.
swimming,
what someone else has
With
already
Leah Thomas,
decided.
nobody in swimming agrees with this. Nobody. Yet the NCAA allowed it. That was
This
bullshit.
is just hate mongering to get back to like more.
It's not
of a
hate mongering.
It's not
No, that
hateful
means
to
what
say
you're
that
saying
men
is
are
She's
men.
you
6'4"
hate
and a
women.
man.
Joe, then I could take that same argument and say you hate women.
Yeah,
For allowing
that's
that to
that's
happen.
how I
Explain to me
view
how
it.
I
Yeah.
hate women.
Say it again,
It's the
Joe. I
same
didn't hear you.
argument.
I
I'm
just asked,
flipping
please
it on its
explain to
ear.
me how I hate women because I believe that
Well, how
trans
do we
athletes should be
hate
able to compete in
trans
the.
by saying they shouldn't compete against women?
I said that the people that already worry about that, whose job it is, has already adjudicated it, and I'm not going to question it because my
No.
opinion is not going to supersede theirs. And to
I
think
thought
I
you questioned
do is
everything that's
egotistical at
inflaming.
the highest level.
Disagree.
But I mean, you have to look at just the past Leah Thomas, the NCAA swimmer, where he was, 450th in the dudes. He switches to a woman and blows everyone out of the water. I mean, that's an issue, and he
Not
didn't have
fair.
any surgeries
Not
or anything done.
Who
I
won the
mean-
most recent NCAA championship?
He did.
He
No,
did.
no. Before that, before they competed, who was the most recent champion?
This is Bill
A
Geiser.
woman.
A woman.
I don't know. I don't watch women
woman.
swimming, but the point
Because
is that
exactly, it doesn't matter. It's
But it matters
designed
to
to
the
make
women.
people
Yes, it
angry.
matters,
We're getting
Joe.
robbed of it.
Joe.
It
She
matters to the
robbed.
woman. If I had a daughter and she's been swimming, I mean, obviously Bill Geiser can tell us it's a lot of practice, and she's been swimming.
And money.
She's got a scholarship to UCLA as a swimmer, and then all of a sudden she's in the finals, and then this dude comes over who's Bill Geiser. He's 6'4" and he's a hell of a swimmer, and all of a sudden says I'm a woman and destroys my daughter. Joe, if that was your daughter, you'd be a little pissed. You're not just going to say, sorry, honey,
Just to
John
put this
became
into
king, and
perspective.
now you lose.
In most events, the best high school swimmer, male, can beat any female in the world. Any female in the world, in the pool. That's like the state champion in Illinois. We're not talking California, Florida,
If
a place
they
like that.
take years of therapy and get an approval from a doctor and go on hormones, and then they still become a champion, and they did it all just because good for them, they deserve it.
No,
But
they
there's no
No,
one
they
in their
don't.
right mind that is actually doing it purely for competitive purposes. That
Bullshit.
does not
Leah
exist.
Thomas did it
And you guys
100%.
are literally
No,
projecting
that's
this
wrong.
false sense of
I-
competitiveness
Couldn't
onto a
disagree
sport you
with
don't
you
care
more.
about, except for Bill. Bill is the only person whose opinion I respect on this.
I compete in combat sports. I can tell you if I transitioned right now, I went through puberty as a man. I have grown up as a man. My bone density is different. My muscle mass is different. If I transition tomorrow, I would be in the UFC by next week.
100%.
I mean, that's just.
The bottom line, nobody hates trans. Nobody. You keep saying that, Joe, and trying to make us feel bad. It's a competition. People spend thousands of dollars with their children training sports. You have people coming in there that are going to win. Biologically, there's no argument to be had. I don't know why we even debate it. Men are stronger, better bone density. It doesn't work. And because you maybe didn't compete at high levels or aren't into sports, you think it's no big deal. But it's a huge deal if you have your ability to compete and win stripped away by someone who decided they wanted to change genders. Because guess what? There's no women turning into men and going and competing in swimming or basketball or MMA. So
Yes,
they
they
are
are.
doing it.
Not doing it well.
Like a couple, but they suck and they already suck. So they want to play, they want to do it maybe just to do it. But at the highest level, you have to keep the biological sex. I don't care what you want to say. The biological sex has to compete against each other. It always has. There's weight classes that are within 5 to 10 pounds that have always been adhered to in many sports. And now we're saying, oh, fuck it. Let's let this 6'4" man go compete with the women. Leah Thomas stole that from that poor gal who then got attacked by more trans because people like you are saying, oh, just get over it. No, don't get over it. It's bullshit. Go compete in your own league.
guess
On
what?
that
There are no trans leagues. So if you don't let them
There's-
compete in the gender that they feel
Let's go
most
create 'em.
comfortable, then you're
Let's
erasing
go
them,
create 'em.
and that
Let's
is
not-
hateful.
You're not
Here's the
I'm
erasing
all
problem.
them.
for
There's such
creating
a small
opening.
percent-
I'm all for giving them an opportunity. I really am. Let's
Me
go
too.
invest the money to create a league specifically for them. Set that up. That's a cool solution.
I agree.
But just letting
There's
them beat
not
up on
enough.
girls is not the answer.
There's not enough of them. That's the problem, is that even if, in theory, in a perfect world, to create a league where you can be in that, there's not enough of them. And we wouldn't see, and we have this issue because it's like, oh, well, you give an inch, they take a mile. Oh, you want to say you're this. Okay, pat them on the head. You can say you're that. But you can't compete with the women. If we're going to sit here and say, yeah, they can transition and pretend to be women, then they're always going to come back and say, well, I am a woman. Why can't I compete with them? You got to nip it in the butt right now and just say, no, you're not a woman. You can be a gay man. You can be a lesbian woman. You are never going to be able to change who you are.
Why don't I go compete in the Special Olympics? Because I decide in my brain that I'm handicapped.
Why can't I be trans race? Why can't I be a black guy?
You're literally just making things up without
No, I'm
understanding
asking-
what
no,
it
no,
actually
I'm
It's the
takes to
same
become
goddamn
trans.
thing, Joe. It's the
No,
same
No, it's
argument.
not.
Why can't I
Because
say
Yes,
you
it
don't
is.
just say, I declare
They do.
bankruptcy, and now all of
Joe.
a sudden you're a woman,
Joe,
right?
why can't
it
I
takes
say I'm black?
years of therapy, years of hormones. This is not an
It doesn't
overnight
change
decision
who you
that people
are.
respect. What you're talking about are trolls. I'm talking about people that have actually realized their truth and are trying to live it and allowing
got
a
changed
society
as
that
children.
creates space for them.
Okay, Joe.
Joe,
How
they
many?
don't
Real
look
quick,
like
real
women.
quick
They're
question.
not
though.
women.
Joe, how many years would be okay for you? How many years would you think would be sufficient, Joe?
I don't care. Like, let's just let them swim. Who
I-
cares
I-
if they
Why
go
not? Who
down the
has
pool
water
fast or
competing
not?
in
No
it?
one. Like,
But what
I
I'm
would much
saying is,
rather
how many-
allow,
you're
like,
saying
reduce trans
if they've gone through years of
suicide rates.
if they've gone through
Trans
years of
suicide
therapy,
rates are higher after the surgery.
Yes, by tons and tons.
When you give it
If
to
No,
them,
you
that's
would,
when they kill
if you would
themselves.
break away from your
lying.
bias and watch
97%
something that
of people
isn't,
that transition
where
say
the
that they've
fuck
never
did you read that?
regretted.
Did you watch What Is a Woman? Have you ever indulged in anything that doesn't feed your own narrative so you could
Have you ever
actually
talked to a
have an
trans
alternate
person?
opinion? Yes,
Yes,
I
and they're
have.
still not trans.
Wow.
all right, let's cut this topic. Let's go to a commercial, Ed, a full commercial if you don't mind, and then we're going to come back.
Hi, my name is Harvey Laguerre, host of Men of the Prize, here on NGBN. On this show, Black men discuss our unique struggles, what we've gone through to become the men that we are today, and we do it in a safe space. So if you want to see Black men discussing our unique issues, give us a try. And if you want to tell us about your unique struggles, get on here and tell us all about it. Talking is the key. My name is Harvey, and you are the man. And you are the prize. Now back to the show.
All right, welcome back. My name is Chris Rubio, host of this fantastic show, Decades, where we're going to have guys from their 60s, 50s, 40s, 30s, and 20s. I see the judge's internet connection is back. He's looking as very stoic as always.
I turned the computer on and off. I did it.
Good job, Judge.
Woo!
slow
So,
clap.
Judge, let's go right to your meme. All right, Judge, as Joan Jett says, hit me with your best shot. What do you got on this one?
I just think that's a good meme because somebody should put something on there that's not controversial.
But I with this group, Judge, I think we could probably make it pretty controversial. Gru, what's your thoughts?
Well, I think that meme, although it's funny, but it's not true.
Why is it not
Okay.
true?
Well, because actually he was the one who caused the whole inflation thing, and now his people are spinning. Oh, look, prices, or the inflation went slightly down, and everybody should be happy. Although the prices didn't go down for the most part. Okay, so it just spinning the bullshit. Okay, in my opinion.
Jim Gingrich, you're laughing. Are you laughing at his accent or what he's saying?
No, I agree with the judge 100%. If I turn up the heat in the house and I make it hotter, and then I turn the AC on to make it cooler, then I'm responsible for both.
All right, we've got some agreement, Charles.
I kind of think that's disingenuous. The inflation didn't go down. The rate of of inflation has slowed. The prices are still going up. They're just not going up as fast.
Bill Geiser?
I would agree with that. If it went up under them and it went down under them, give them credit. The question I'd ask is inflation today where it was when he took office? And the answer is, it is not.
No.
It's higher.
It's way
We still
lower.
haven't come down enough. Joe's got
Joe,
more work to do. And unfortunately, he took a nap on the job today, but we'll leave that alone.
Well, there's no more Tootskis in the White House. That's the problem. All right, let's go to meme number, what are we at? Number 5, Jim Gingrich. Is that guy at the bottom Joe's cousin?
Thank
That guy
you.
looked like Joe. If you had long hair, let me see that one more time, Ed.
Let's go.
A little bit.
I'll take that every day. Pedro Pascal.
All right, Jim. What's your thoughts?
No one's that straight.
The price of stuff is making me rethink things that I thought were ridiculous. You know, if you go to New York and some of these places, they have rent controlled, and you know, I'm kind of a pure capitalist, and I always thought that was ridiculous. But they've priced people out of it, and I think Joe may have said in their rentals they were able. I think that was the term, to raise by so much. But then we talk about billionaires and how awful it is, the cost of inflation. Like, why did your company or you raise it? I mean, money always talks. That's the point of that. It's greed. Someone gets an opportunity to raise rent because of supply and demand, they're going to do it, as opposed to saying, guess what? I bet if you're in your 20s, it's really tough to buy a house and rent. Nope, fuck you. We'll just keep raising rent because the market can afford it. So I think people need to fight back with stuff like that, you know. Get it in there, put some strength in the curtain rods, let it leak when you leave.
Increase. My mom lives in Southern California, and I just know around her she bought her home in the 70s for like $25,000, and I think now it's worth like $600,000 to $700,000. And almost all of her neighbors around
She doesn't
her
have to pay any property taxes on it either. Her property taxes are the same as the 80s.
And her neighbors, though, anytime they sell a home, 3 to 4 families move in to the home because they can't afford it. As a, you know, if you're a teacher, or how you buying a home, or if you're just a starting real estate agent, how are you buying that home? So it's kind of a wild one. Joe, do you have any comment on this one, or are you're happy the fact that I told you look like that guy?
No, I mean, I have a real estate equity syndication company. We have 20 units right now. Rents are insane. I mean, we had a unit that we put up for $1,700 a month, or we had 2 units, 2 brand new 2 bedrooms that we renovated, 2 parking spots each, nice downtown area. We put them up for $1,700. They ended up renting for $1,800 and $1,900 because of the bidding war that happened. You know, we're just in a spot right now where there's places people want to live and places people don't want to live. Ironically, even though my people might perceive me as a leftist, obviously, but like a lot of leftists really suck at housing. Like the South and the Sun Belt is doing a great job at building housing to keeping rents low. And a lot of communities in the Northeast and California, the Pacific Northwest, are doing a great job of using environmental laws or single family exclusionary zoning to force 4 families to live in an acre lot on one building instead of building the 6 houses that could go there. So, you know, we've sort of I said before, we created, you know, the aristocracy with the billionaires, but now we've created the gentry with the middle class that has their house, that doesn't want to let their value go down or let anyone else come in.
Good point. Let's round it out with Joe Nolan's meme. So, Joe, what do you got on this one?
You're not going to believe it. It's hot. It's fucking hot everywhere. I grew up, you know, I'm 34. My entire life I've been hearing about climate change. I remember it in middle school. I remember when John Crichton put out his climate change book. And now it's like fucking crazy because all the things they said were going to happen in 20 years are happening 20 years later. Like there's heat waves everywhere. There's surface ocean temperatures that are 3 degrees higher than ever. There is a new record for a minimum amount of sea ice. And this is all while we're at a minimum for the solar maximum, right? Like we are currently at the same point in the solar cycle that caused the Little Ice Age, 500 years that caused like the Thames River in London to freeze over. So I know it's like a really funny meme, and King of the Hill is a great show, but that was 111 degrees. It's been 6 degrees warmer every day in Phoenix, every day for the last 13 days. They just broke a record. Like, my generation's fucked. Thank you. I appreciate everyone. I hope you had a great retirement.
Speaking of retired and being around during the Ice Age, Judge, what's your thought?
Well, I remember when the dinosaurs went extinct, and I don't think there's any dispute. Well, I don't think there's any intelligent dispute, if you will, that there's climate change going on. I think the big argument I hear from people is what's causing it. I think Joe's right. All of the indicators show that there's all these massive changes that are going much, much faster than people ever predicted they would. So I think there's got to be something to it, that something's changing. It just seems to me that there's too much evidence when you can swim in a 90-degree ocean that things aren't going absolutely haywire for us here on Earth.
Where's the 90-degree ocean? I'd love to swim in that. You know my rule. I'm going 85 degree water.
The Gulf of Mexico is 99.2 right now.
Yeah.
What's 99.2?
The Gulf of Mexico.
Ooh. Bill Geiser, you do some good swimming there. What's your thoughts on this?
Well, I'm just really happy that we have John Kerry as our environmental and decarbonization leader. I don't know if you guys noticed the news this week, but he was asked under oath whether he owns a private jet. And he said he does not. But under a little bit of pressure, he admitted, yeah, my wife has one. What an asshole. Come on.
Yeah.
These elitists are telling us to do all this stuff to cut back energy, decarbonize the world, and that asshole's flying from New York to Philly in a private jet. So until he starts flying coach with me, I'm not believing this guy.
Well, why does he need to fly anywhere? Why? It's 2023. If you're that concerned, don't go to Switzerland. Just let's do a Zoom
meeting.
He's
an elitist. He's an elitist.
Philadelphia, California.
He's elitist. If you know what they would really make their point if they led from the front. That's what real leaders do. Do as they say. Set the example. He ain't gonna set the example. Are you kidding me? That's bullshit. Screw him.
Chalice?
Yeah, I guess unintelligent argument coming in hot, but I don't really think I think it's very much overblown. It's like, so the child trafficking is just, it's not that big of a deal, but now it's a little hotter than it used to be, and that's the big thing that we got to worry about in the world. I think, sure, I mean, the climate is always changing. There was an ice age before, but there was also predictions that we'd be in a new ice age, and we're not in a new ice age. And I think it's funny how these people who, like Bill said, get on their private jets, fly everywhere. Their solution to everything is that me, you, and my grandma pay more taxes, give them more money. That's the solution to everything. So unintelligent argument, I think it's way overblown, and I'm not concerned about it. I think there's much more important things to be concerned about than the fact that I might get a little sweaty.
Gru?
Well, in 2008, I was with my family on a cruise to Alaska. It was one of those glacier places. It had some kind of research institute there. And then when we asked him about the climate change or man-made climate change, they told us, well, there is no actual proof that whatever's going on is actually caused by what people do. It's just planet goes through, evolutionary changes, basically. So, and I also think it's overblown, the whole, climate change stuff. Like people like John Kerry or Al Gore, whose electricity use actually increased after he was trying to tell everybody, to to do less this or less that, or drive Prius and as such. Okay, so
Jim Gingrich, I know this is a topic that you enjoy.
I'm going to send Joe so much data. There's actually real scientists now and all kinds of info that the temperature hasn't raised in 15 years. I've been around a little longer than Joe. And in the 60s, they said oil will be gone in 10 years. In 70s, an ice age in 10 years. The 80s, acid rain. 90s, ozone layer will be gone in 10 years. 2000, ice caps will be gone. We'll be underwater. Yeah, the climate's always changing, but we've really had good science for 150 years, and every one of these things has resulted in more taxes and more power grabs and more money. So yes, we should be environmentally responsible, but who knows if it was 130 degrees in the desert down there for a period at some point. Our climate here is, in my 50 years, has moved about every decade. It changes to some degree. You'll have hotter, cooler, and the real science that's out there and has been disproven isn't this alarmist shit that we hear. It just isn't happening. I have tons of facts. I researched this and have spoke on this a lot. It's bullshit. And even if it wasn't, China's producing it's over 2.5 times more emissions than we are. So what? We're going to destroy America because China doesn't give a shit. I mean,
they're leading the solar and renewable energy revolution. They've
no, they're not.
made more solar cells in the
They're
last 3
fucking
years
not.
than we made in our entire
Because
history.
they have 3 billion people, but they're producing more carbon emissions than any other. They have more than fucking 60, 70 countries, and they've more than doubled what we have. So big deal. Are they going to slow down? Are they going to stop? Are they going to drive electric cars? No. The fact of the matter is, Al Gore said all this shit 20 years ago when you were in diapers, and not one of it is even close to true. In fact, the ice is expanding in Greenland and other places as we speak. So people that keep telling you, or maybe it's in the Antarctica, but we'll have to debate this heavily, but it's ridiculous. Yes, it changes. Yes, we should monitor emissions, but this disruption in economics is for power grabs. It has always been that. It always will be. There's no real truth to this being a problem that's going to bring down the globe in the next 10 years, because they've been trying to pull that shit for the last 60 years and none of it's been true.
If in
By the way,
California,
I took a swim this morning in the Gulf. It was 86. A little warm, but comfortable.
okay, if in California everybody buys a Tesla, we would be in the dark every day because California doesn't have enough power to power everybody's Tesla. That's a true statement. We have brownouts and blackouts every summer without everybody owning Tesla or any other EV. Okay, so just
I completely agree with all of you. I don't think any neoliberals or electric cars are going to get out of this. I think the only way is if we learn to live with less, and I don't believe this country's anywhere close to that, so we're fucked.
But how are we fucked? What's going to happen?
So I'm going to tell you things that are happening within the last week. Relative temperature, including humidity, it was 154 in the Persian Gulf this week. The Florida Keys, 98 degrees, 9 degrees above normal. The the Atlantic Ocean between 60 degrees south and 60 degrees north is 3 degrees above normal. We have the least ice ever formed by such a degree that scientists are sounding the alarm. And this is just in the last week, right? That's 65 inches of rain that fell in Japan. It's the 30 inches of rain that fell at West Point and destroyed roads. It's the fact that the Canadian wildfires are burning out of control because the climate in China or in Canada has changed so much to make it dry. Yeah. So now it's on fire.
Those are arsonists. Where do you get your data? Those are arson. They've already arrested a bunch of people.
Regardless of the things that happened in the last week, the actual economics, the grapevine growers in Italy and France are saying that the climate has changed, that they've had to move north. The varietals have changed that they can grow. Same in Napa Valley. In the Atlantic, this winter is going to be the first time the North Atlantic Passage is completely transversable in the human history. There's literally every single country on the Arctic is positioning for year-round Arctic trade because of how little ice there's going to be. It doesn't matter what I believe. It doesn't matter what you believe. Neoliberals are fucking us and just exploiting the world until they lose their last grip on power because of climate refugees and a breakdown in societal order.
Joe, great question. How could you know that that's the first time it's available in human history? if they've only been tracking science for 150 years or the weather for 150 years?
Because they walked here 10,000 years ago, Rubio, over the ice.
They write it down.
But then, how do you know what the temperatures were in the summer then?
So they have these things called ice core samples. They go up and they drill samples all the way down in these areas that have been frozen for 100,000 years. And based off the deposits, they're able to see, just like tree rings, how much the climate has changed over time. So
but what I'm asking,
I am not a climate scientist, but people who are a lot smarter than me and spent their entire life doing this, 97% of them are saying the same thing. And
it's always that number, 97%, and it's not true. They're not even real scientists if you dive into this.
It is 95%, actually. It is 95%.
Yeah, but haven't they been saying, like James gave examples, haven't they been saying for decades upon decades that this was going to happen and that was going to happen? And
they've been saying it since 1911, and now it is happening.
So is this the time that it actually is happening? Like, you have to at least, like, the rest of the time they said in 20 years this will happen. It didn't happen.
This is as good
now,
as it's ever going to be again for us.
It's really happening now.
But yeah, but I just, if you're wrong 9 times, why would I trust you the 10th?
Well, they've been saying it's going to happen 20 years later, 20 years ago, and now we're here and it's happening.
Oh, 20 years ago they said the ocean would be up 20 feet.
Yeah.
Joe, the problem is they said the oceans would be up 10 feet, cities would be underwater, and all the polar ice caps would be melted. So it didn't fucking change to that degree, not even close, not even
No, they said that was
measurable.
possible, but we've actually reduced a lot of the worst-case scenarios, but it's still not enough. We're on our way to 2.5 degrees
anything.
Okay,
and
so
one point of clarification. It was not 98 this week in the Keys. The highest it was 93. Typically, it was between 90 and 91. Maybe you're talking about
no. I'm talking about the water,
temperature, humidity.
I'm talking about the water.
The water was 98 degrees at the Keys?
Yes.
I need to go there. That's right in my wheelhouse. Anyway. The irony of this was this topic. We're obviously next show we're going to talk about climate because this is a good one for us. The irony of this topic is this is exactly how this show was kind of created. I was talking to my middle son and I just asked him, "Hey, if you were running for president, what would be your campaign? What would you do it?" And he said climate change, and it shook me because I was like, "We haven't really talked about it that much. Not a big deal." And then I asked him the next question. I said, "You ever heard of the ozone layer?" He said, "No, what's that?" And I go, "That's kind of my point."
Yeah.
I go, when I grew up in the 80s, back in LA, I remember girls were literally stopping using Aquanet hairspray because it was blowing out the ozone layer. And I said, the fact that they keep suggesting it over and over and over, but then you just don't even hear about it anymore. It's kind of a weird thing.
They banned CFCs, chlorofluorocarbons, which were part of aerosols. They destroyed O3 by binding to it and letting it become a heavier chemical. They banned them internationally thanks to international cooperation. And now thanks to natural forces, the ozone recovered. We haven't done anything close to that on climate change.
That's why the 90s.
The water temperature in the Keys today is 89.8.
Nice.
Hit 91 earlier this week.
All right. Well, I just sent you the Washington Post called Florida ocean temperatures at downright shocking levels. Water in the Gulf of Mexico, 98 degrees. New England had 7 inches of rain and massive floods. It's 117 in Phoenix, and Canada's on fire.
Well, Phoenix is all
on fire. You get a couple other sources.
As all forests burn with freaking arsons and lightning, and always have for thousands of years, which caused way more CO2 when we didn't fight forest fires for millions of years. You can't bring a forest in. It has nothing to do with it, especially when people lit the fucking fires.
There's over 300 fires in Canada. I doubt if we have that many arsons.
How do you know? And we have fires here. It'll be smoky in 2 weeks here because there's forest fires every year. You can't stop lightning.
Well, Jim,
it
exactly right. So if you can't stop lightning and the forests have been there for hundreds of years, then what's changed? It's the climate. It's drier.
How do we know
now
it's
the
changed?
tinder
You've
is
been
going
here
up.
34 years. How do you know what happened to the forest 1,000 years ago? How do you know
I
they
don't,
didn't
but I
burn
know
out
what happens if the forest is wet and it's been there
we put
forever.
fires out
then it
now.
should've,
So how much positive effect is that having when we now are able to put out fires as opposed to letting them burn endlessly for years like they used to? That has to have an effect, doesn't it?
Actually, they're going back to that.
That's what Canada does. Their policies do not.
I don't know where you guys get your info. Well, in a vacuum, I think.
In Canada, all the fires are fought by South Koreans. Okay, I'm not sure why, but that's how it is.
Canada, they're probably trying to burn the poutine to give it some flavor. All right. This is a phenomenal show. You guys did very, very well. They got a little heated, which I kind of liked. I didn't think it would get this heated on a Memepalooza. Sub 68, are you here? Where are you? Oh, there
I'm
you are.
here.
Okay. I mean,
I fell
once again,
asleep.
you have
I
to
fell
choose
asleep.
the winner.
I fell asleep. It was kind of past my bedtime.
Yeah, it was a long show. We might cut it in two.
Anyway, you know, I was trying to figure out who I was going to. The memes were great. I laughed. We had a good time. Like you said, Rubio, it got a little heated, but that's what this is about. But I got to give it to Gru.
What?
As the panelist. His meme, laugh out loud.
Oh, yeah,
vegetarian.
Okay.
Vegetarian.
I want to sub note that I would have given it to Joe Nolan just for drinking all day and still making the show.
Well, I couldn't. Yeah, I didn't want to.
I'll drink to that.
I didn't want to show favoritism or anything like that.
I'm out of beer, so I hope we're over. Like, let's go.
Judge, I'll be over in about 5 minutes for dinner. Everyone, make sure you share NGBN.TV network, also Decades on YouTube and LinkedIn. Cheers, everybody. Good talk tonight.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you, guys.